Hi again, team. It's Tanya again. I've stepped in to talk with you about assignment 3. As mentioned before, I understand some of you are feeling a little bit stressed about this particular assignment. So I'm hoping that by providing you with an example response, you'll get firstly an understanding of what's required, or a better understanding of what's required, but even more importantly, that you'll gain greater confidence in your capacity to meet the requirements of this task. I do want to add some disclaimers in though. The example that I'm presenting to you is very basic and wouldn't be a pass only because there is insufficient information. It's probably not quite as visually appealing as it could be either. This is for the most part presented with black text on white background. I know that you can do a little bit more than that, so I know you're going to play around with colour, font, images to create a really compelling visual presentation. Alright, so in this example, the learner has given this work a title, Assignment 3, About Me, and they've flagged their future profession. They want to be an organisational psychologist. Now, you will pop in whatever profession you're aiming towards, be it a teacher, criminologist, clinical psychologist, or something else. I know that many of you have very clear ideas about your profession, and you'll find it easy to pop your future profession down in the title. I'm also aware that there are also a number of you within the group who are not quite sure about where your degree is going to take you. It might be helpful in your case to think about the types of professions that someone undertaking your degree might qualify for. Pick one of those professions and frame your response as if you were pursuing a career in that particular area. Alright, so the author of this particular example response has created a very basic title page, and then they've gone on to speak about the first prompt. So they've spoken about their areas of expertise, they've provided some dot point information about their skills, popped a little picture in, and then they've used a notes section to help elaborate and flesh out the information that's presented in the slides. As we've spoken about earlier, in a real life setting, your audience would simply see the slide, that is this information here, and they wouldn't see the script. The script should be written in paragraph format, and it may be helpful to use either the Teal or the Peel framework to ensure that your paragraph communicates your message as effectively as possible. So to reiterate, the information in the slides is just a basic overview, dot points, clear and concise. The information in the notes section or the script needs to be much more developed and written in paragraph format. As mentioned previously, the information in the slides themselves is not included in the word count. The information in the script or the notes section down the bottom is included in the word count. You can see then that the learner has then gone on to address each of the other prompts. Now, I'm talking my way through these particular prompts quite quickly. You can obviously stop this video and go back and have a closer look at each of the slides. I'll also send out a copy of this particular presentation to you via the announcement section of Blackboard or Canvas. Just wanted to point out another point. One of the things you need to do with this particular assignment is make use of the evaluation tools. What do we mean by that? It's things like the quizzes you've done along the way. It's also about some of the activities you've done. So, for example, when talking about your current knowledge of the online environment, you might like to talk about, bear with me, I've lost my cursor, there it is. You might like to talk about how your current knowledge developed through the quiz on academic integrity in week 2. You might like to talk about how your understanding of the online world was influenced by the article on social media personas in week 3. So use some of the experiences that you've had along the way to help address some of these questions. You'll then go on to talk about your unit goals, so the skills and attributes you want to have by the end of the unit. I've listed a couple. You can list 2, 3, it's completely up to you. Sometimes it's better to focus in on 2 to 3 than try and list too many, because remember, you'll need to elaborate on these ideas in paragraph format in the script. I also want to point out that this in the notes section here is not a paragraph. It's just some broad ideas. When you're writing your script, you need to write in paragraph format. I didn't want to write a full paragraph because I don't want you to be too swayed by the sorts of content that I'm providing. I really want you to use this as a reflection about you. Okay, so you talk about your unit goals, and then you'll also talk about your course goals. Again, you'll pop a title in, some dot points, and then you'll also elaborate on those points in the notes section. It is important to make sure that you do meet the word count within that notes section, because as we've discussed before, the script or the notes section is included in the word count. The dot points and the title and the other bits and pieces within the slide are not counted as part of the word count. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, you should go and speak to your ELA. Ideally, pop a post in your group's assessment forum. If you have a question or a concern, it's likely that others in the group will have the same question or concern. So it's really important that you share that and that your ELA has a chance to respond to you and the wider group. This ensures that everyone's privy to the same information. Where possible, your ELA will respond directly. There may be instances where your ELA will say to you that they need to go back to the wider ELA group to seek further advice. We do this to ensure that each of you are given the same information and to prevent confusion. Guys, as I mentioned before, I understand that some of you were feeling a little bit confused by this assignment and you were feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I'm hoping that this information and this basic example has helped address some of that. As always, keep the questions going, stay involved, let us know where you're up to, and always call out with any concerns. We want to help you and we want to support you, but it takes your input to help us to do that. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening. As I mentioned before, I hope this helps.